Hey everybody, this is the Longhorn Confidential for January 7th, 2025. I'm Danny Davis, the Austin American-Statesman, joined today by Thomas Jones, Cedric Golden, and hey, this is our first Longhorn Confidential of 2025, but we are still talking football, so it's a beautiful time of the year. Let's talk national championship chases, which is Texas Longhorns. They're trying to do something that the Montana State Bobcats could not do last night, and that's win a national title. And in order to do that, they first have to get
Don't you
past
bring your personal stuff into this podcast, Danny Davis. I'm going to
any
tell you, I
chance
blame you.
I
Before
get.
we get to the real thing we're talking about, I'm blaming you for me being up late last night. But they had the replay. I saw a tweet where you said, "Oh, Montana State scored 16 straight points," so I turned it off. So I went on there and they were showing the replay, and ESPN's got to fix this. I'm in the middle of a really good FCS championship game, and they flashed the final score at the bottom. Why would you do that when you're showing a replay? So I didn't have to sit around for the second half, but you and your hatred for Montana State. Stop it,
Big
Dad.
Sky hater.
I
He's
just
hating.
all I know is I went to the one Montana school that's won a FCS championship in the last 40 years. So that's all I got
Mhm.
all I gotta say about that. But or yes, yes. Texas, Ohio State, Cotton Bowl Friday over AT&T Stadium in Arlington, assuming we're all able to get to the game and weather does not keep us away from Jerry World. This should be an intriguing matchup between the number 5 seed and the number 8 seed. Texas is 13-2. Ohio State is 12-2. 6:30 kickoff on ESPN if you are stuck at home and cannot make it to the game. But even though Ohio State is the lower seed and has one less win than Texas, they are 5.5 point favorites in this game. In part because of the way they've been playing in these playoffs. They kicked the you know what out of Oregon, did the same thing to Tennessee, while Texas maybe should have lost the Arizona State game. Definitely got a little scare put into him by Clemson in the first round. But we're going to talk about what happens when you actually get on the field. Got to play the game. Games aren't played on paper; they're played in the field. So when these two teams face off on Friday night, Thomas, we'll start with you. What is one advantage that Texas has over Ohio State?
I really think Ohio State is a really good team. Like the more you look at them, very complete in all facets of the game. But their offensive line is a little beat up. They've kind of had to juggle some people. Some guys are playing different positions. I think the Texas defensive front really has to win that battle with the Ohio State O line for Texas to have a chance. I think Alfred Collins could have a big game. I think Jermaine Lowell is playing well. I think he could have a big game. And those edges with Colin Simmons and Trey Moore and Ethan Burke, um, those guys are going to need a big game. I think Texas has the edge there, but they're going to have a big edge there to get the win.
Said who's what is the one advantage you think Texas has in this game?
Ohio State's and Texas, two of the best pass defenses in the country. But I like Quinn Ewers in a big game atmosphere. Quinn Ewers seems to play his best in these big games. You can't go to sleep in the second and third quarter like we've seen lately. But if ever you needed proof that Quinn Ewers is a boss, it's the end of the Arizona State game when he saved the season. I know this is a step up in competition for the Horns, but I like Quinn Ewers. I like QB1 to make some things happen against a very good defense for Ohio State. Quinn Ewers will figure out a way to get it done. I've said it before, guys. Ohio State's not beatable in this game. I mean, they play great and they're playing their best ball of the season at the right time. But we've already said that this is the best team Texas will have faced all year. Guess what? It's also the best team that Ohio State will have faced.
Yeah, I mean,
Better than Oregon, huh? Okay.
Hey, that Oregon that we saw, yeah, way better, way better.
you know, I cannot get over the Michigan scores. And I know you don't want to do the whole transitive property, all that stuff, and it's a completely different game. But I mean, it has to mean something that Texas, beat Michigan 31-12, and that same Michigan team ended up beating Ohio State. And granted, Texas beat them in September. Michigan was playing a lot better at the end of the year when they faced them at the end of November. But that means something to me. But the advantage I'm going to pick actually is, and this is not any shade towards Jeremiah Smith, who is a freak. That kid is going to be a future star in the NFL. I can't wait to get him on my fantasy football team. That boy can play. He is incredible as he's shown against Tennessee and Oregon. but Texas technically has a better freshman on its team. And Colin Simmons won the Sean Alexander Award. And I think because of some of the points that Thomas pointed out, I think I'd rather have my freak freshman on the defensive line because I think Texas, although Texas doesn't have a Jeremiah Smith on its team, it does have a Matthew Golden who's playing very well. It does have an Isaiah Bond if he's healthy. DeAndre Moore is kind of a forgotten player, and he is very, very good. Silas Bolden, is good for a couple, plays in that receiving core. So I think the difference between that Jeremiah Smith gives Ohio State in its receiving game is not the same that as Colin Simmons gives Texas on its defensive line. So I think the star freshman, I think that edge goes to Texas, and I just kind of think he's going to make a bigger impact against Jeremiah Smith, who's going to have to contend with a very good pass defense with Jade Barron, winning the Thorpe Award, and they have an All-American and Michael Taft and a really good All-Conference safety and Andrew Makuba. So give me Colin Simmons as far as the star freshman, give that advantage to Texas. But same note, what is one advantage that Ohio State obviously has in this game? There has to be something if they're 5.5 point favorites. Seth, we'll go to you for this one first.
Ohio State is just so balanced overall on defense, but I looked at this and their running game is better than Texas. Their running game is better. Travion Henderson and Quinshawn Judkins are both approaching 1,000 yards. One needs 75 yards to get 1,000. One needs 76 to get 1,000. And they are a good 1-2 punch. They have Travion's got that breakaway speed. Quinshawn is that chain moving bruiser. Very good. Probably just a better version of Quintravian Wisner and Jadon Blue, very similar in the usage rate. But I think that is a big time advantage, especially after what Cam Scatterbo did against this defensive line. And they only had one guy, and Scatterbo was puking over on the sideline. He was gassed. What a player he is. But they've got two guys that there isn't any drop off when they substitute one for another. And we all know that Texas has had its problems in the rushing game in the games they've lost.
I think Ohio State just has the momentum right now. I think if you polled most people who's the best of the four teams remaining, Ohio State's probably getting, picked by more, they're probably winning that poll. And that's because of the way they stomped Tennessee and the way they stomped Oregon, which was a team that most of us, at least at the Statesman, picked to win the entire thing. I know Thomas is going to say in a couple seconds that he did not make that pick, but I just think Ohio State's has been playing a lot better than Texas, which, was scared a little bit by Clemson in that first round. And, Arizona State, I think all of us had a Arizona State winning story ready to go in the queue and a Texas story ready to go in the queue. And either one, we could have hit send on either one of those stories because of how Arizona State rallied back. And, it took a miracle 4th and 13 play, which, excuse me, may go down as one of the best plays in school history if Texas ends up winning the entire championship, but still did take Quinn making that play for Texas's season to survive. So Ohio State's just been playing better. They have the momentum. Granted, that could all change when the game kicks off at 6:30 on Friday, but I think Ohio State goes into this game with a clear, edge of momentum if that is something that you believe in when it comes to sports. Thomas, what's your pick?
Well, I mentioned the Texas defensive line I think that's an edge for Texas, but that Ohio State pass rush against the Texas offensive line, I think is a definite edge to the Buckeyes. Look, I know the Longhorns were a Joe Moore Award finalist that Army somehow won, but I think that's more on reputation. We saw the issues that Texas had, especially with Georgia, protecting Quinn Ewers, and y'all, Ohio State gets after the quarterback. I mean, they sacked Dylan Gabriel, Oregon's quarterback, last week 8 times. JT Tuamaloa has, 10 and a half sacks? I know Cam Williams is back probably at right tackle for Texas, and that'll help. But that Buckeye pass rush is deadly. I'm worried about it, especially since Quinn is not the most mobile guy.
All right, before we get out of there and start packing our winter coats for the weekend, TJ, pick a winner and pick a game MVP for Friday.
All right. Well, as you mentioned, I took Ohio State to win this whole thing at the beginning, and I'm sticking with that. They've done nothing to dissuade me. They beat really good Tennessee team. They walloped a good Oregon team. I think Ohio State wins this. I think it'll be tight. I think Will Howard's mobility at quarterback will help Ohio State. And I've kind of been harping on this all year, special teams that it could have cost Texas last week against Arizona State. I think it's going to cost them this week in a tight game. I think Ohio State wins.
Said,
Man, I've been going back and forth for the last 3 days. I know Thomas Jones emailed me saying, "Hey, I need a prediction." I'm just sitting there going, "Man, I don't know. I love what Ohio State is doing, but I just, man, Will Howard, Will Howard has had some success against Texas, but he's never won against Texas. But he's got those weapons. I'm gonna go with the Longhorns. I'm gonna go with the Longhorns. Um, my biggest concern is that rush, that pass rush, like TJ said. They've given up big sacks this year. Ohio State's only given up 14 all season. So, but I'm gonna go with Texas because of Quinn Ewers. If they can keep him upright, that's a big if. If they can keep him upright, Texas can make some plays down the field. This might be a game where you guys, you Gunnar Helm fans out there, this might be a game where Gunnar Helm is way more important in pass protection than he is out in the pattern. So I'm going to take Texas 34-30 over Ohio State in a thriller at Jerry World.
you know what? I'm going to pick Texas, and my game MVP is going to be Bert Auburn or whoever ends up kicking for Texas in this game because I think it's going to be, hold on. I think this is going to be a game that's decided late. I think it's going to be decided by a field goal. And if we know anything about our good friend Steve Sarkisian, he's a stubborn man. And I think he is going to not change up what he's doing. I think he's going to go with what he believes that has helped this team win. And I think that includes Bert Auburn, and I think that's going to include a late field goal. So I say Texas wins at the buzzer. Bert gives us all something to write about, or Will Stone if he's the one that ends up kicking. But I do believe this is a field goal game, and which for the Texas Longhorns is not something we have expected this season. But that's my if Kirk Bowles was here, that would be my 10th crazy prediction or whatever he used to write here, and that's I'm ready to be proven wrong. But that's what I'm going with on Tuesday.
My MVP is Colin Simmons. I think he's going to go nuts back home. Colin Simmons.
If you're right about Bert Auburn, just so people know, Bert's a great kid. I think a lot of people who've ever talked with Bert will be very happy for him because he's a good kid.
I think Danny needs to pee in a cup after this podcast.
I'm just
You're going to get tested for steroids, Davis.
y'all can't touch me. Montana State lost yesterday. I am feeling good. Y'all can't say nothing to me. I'm floating on my haterade, and it's led me to believe that Texas is going to win on a late field goal. So we'll see. I mean, Bert Auburn has made some big kicks in his career. Obviously, has struggled a lot this season, including last week against Arizona State. So we'll see if he can get it corrected, or if Texas, once again, they decide to give Will Stone a try, which would be a pretty crazy move this late in the season. I just once again, I think these two teams are too close for this to be a blowout, and yeah, we'll see what happens at the buzzer. But if it's a late game, Bert Auburn, do not make me look foolish because YouTube is forever, and that's where you can find this podcast as well as all of our Longhorn Confidential stuff throughout the week. So we appreciate you watching us there, getting your podcast wherever you get your podcast, or watching us on Station.com, where you'll also find all of our content in the lead up to the Cotton Bowl, as well as our Cotton Bowl coverage and our Cotton Bowl post game stuff. But yeah, 6:30 Friday on ESPN. If you are watching at home or making the trip to Arlington, drive safely. It's going to be kind of interesting up there, but we hope to see y'all up there. And yeah, that's going to do it for us. For Thomas, I'm Danny. We'll see y'all down the road. Deuces.